June is upon us. Isn't that great? Half the year will soon be done. Our summer solstice is coming up, and at the end of June, we'll have half of 2017 will be in the past. And we look at ourselves and we'll say, and before you know it, we'll be with the blowers and the streamers, and we'll be singing Happy New Year. And we'll be approaching 2018. What's going to happen in the next 6 months? What's going to happen between now and the end of 2017? Have you thought about that? Have you considered what the balance of this year is going to be like for you? In our Science of Mind teachings, we espouse and we teach the idea that we have dominion, we have responsibility, that we are made in the image and the likeness of the one power and presence of God. And because of that, we are able to speak our word, name and claim what we want, make our choices in life, and go for it. That's the way we're made, right? Because we are made of this divine energy, and we get to choose how we spend it, how we give it out. And as we grow in our spiritual maturity, we recognize that this energy that we are is infinite. And that the more of life that we engage in, the more life gives us to play the game. Now, there's a lot of times when we get in what we call ruts. We get these habits that get instilled in us, and we think that's a good thing to do. I know exactly what's going on today and tomorrow, and I'm just a happy camper because everything is in my control. And yet, what happens in those times? Does Spirit ever give you a little nudge? Does there something come out of the blue that prompts you to give you a little kick and say, don't think you're going to be so comfortable at this point? Why is that? Because we're an infinite being. We here, I believe, in this room, are on a path. We are setting an intention for our spiritual maturity. We're not kicking and screaming. We're saying, okay, let me be open to what it is that God has for me, this infinite being that I am one and of and in. What does it have for me? Now, so our spiritual growth is done in increments. It's done in steps. We can sit here all we want and want to have the consciousness of the Christ, want to have the consciousness of the Buddha, like that. You know what? Usually doesn't work that way. Like anything in life, there are baby steps. Like anything between now and the end of 2017, they are going to be lived one breath, one moment, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. Correct? And so what we are doing it in this room now is setting our intention. How am I to bring myself into a higher, deeper knowingness of my oneness with the one? How can I grow spiritually, maturing as I grow? The Chinese proverb said, "Be not afraid of growing slowly, be afraid only of standing still." And White Eagle said, "Flowers do not force their way with great strife. Flowers open to perfection slowly in the sun." Don't be in a hurry about spiritual matters. Go step by step and be very sure. Spiritual growth results from absorbing and digesting truth and putting it to practice in daily life. That's what it takes. It takes not only knowing When we have those moments of inspiration, when our God self comes to us and says, hey, what about this? Are you up for this? It takes us making the commitment. That's the first step in whatever it is that we're deciding to do in life, is to make the commitment to do it. Number 1, the synonyms for commitment are promise, pledge, vow, assurance, dedication, and loyalty. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the quote by William Hutchison Murray that's been used in many classes that we've given here. It says, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves in. All sorts of things occur that to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from that decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidences and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. This idea of commitment is a very strong one. Where are you committed in your life? Do you know what your commitments are? Do you have them? Maybe they've changed. Maybe you've had some commitments in the past and you've gone through them, right? So I wanted to look at the major areas in our life that we do have commitments. And one of the first one that comes up for me is relationships. Many of us are in a committed relationship with a spouse or a partner, or we have been at one time in our lives. And what is that like for you? How is that like right now? If you are in that committed relationship, how is it looking for you? Is it still one of vibrancy? Is it still one of newness? Is it still one where you are giving your energy to it, or does it need to be revamped? Does it need to be recommitted in any way whatsoever? What about your family members? Do you have a parent, a child, a sibling, a grandchild of some sort that you are committed to having a relationship with? How do you do that? What does that look like? Many of us in life, at this point in time, we are committed to caregiving for our elderly parent. That's a commitment that many, many people in our society are going through now. Many people are raising grandchildren, you know. And so what does that commitment look like? Are you doing it with love? Are you doing it with a volunteer type of an attitude, or are you doing it out of obligation? Are you doing it out of, I really don't want to do this, but I have to do this? Do you feel and know the difference? I want you to be able to look. Just look. You don't have to be judgmental about it. Just be open and honest and just look. Where are my commitments in my life right now? How are they serving me, and how am I serving them? Look at your commitments. Work. Some of us are still working in a job. What is your work commitment? Maybe you're retired. Maybe you have other commitments in your creative endeavors, you know, that you've chosen to do. I'm still working at insurance. I do the commercial insurance shtick. 4 days a week. Yes, I got 1 day off. So 4 days a week, I go into the office and do my deal, and and I write commercial insurance. And the guy that writes personal lines, he and I both have been there going on 23 years. So for 23 years, I'm still doing what I'm doing there, and he was out at one of our clients that has both commercial and personal, so he knows me as well, and my name was brought up. And John said, is Gay still there? And Jean said, yeah, you know what, she is. But you know, the nice part about it is that she is there because she wants to be. She's choosing to be. She's not out doing it because she has to. She doesn't really, need to be there, but she's doing it because it still feeds her. And that's her choice. And so I want you to look at your commitments as far as your time is involved with your work, with your volunteering, with doing what you do. Are you doing it because it's a love? Or are you doing it because it's a habit? It's an obligation. It's something that I've always done and I still have to do. Look at your commitment from that regard. What are you doing as far as your personal commitment goes? What are your personal commitments? Are you committed to a lifestyle that supports you physically? Are you honoring your body by feeding it what nourishes you? Are you giving it exercise? I think my little Fitbit thing is buzzing at me. Are you getting out moving and using those muscles and that cardio? Are you using this physicalness of you, committed to having it healthy, to eating and consuming nourishing food? What about your mind? Are you committed to enlarging, nourishing this mind of yours, to give it what it needs, to let it grow and be nourished? And lastly, probably more importantly, especially on the topic that I'm on today, is how are you committed to your spirit, to your soul? What value are you placing on your spiritual commitment of growth in that area? We're presenting this course this coming month on the keys to the kingdom. I told you my funny little story this morning about the keys. God has a sense of humor. And so I'm going to look at that. I thought that was very interesting, the way all of these little things went around with not having the right key in the right place and having to find my way. But this whole element of this course is based on growing our spiritual awareness, our spiritual maturity. And the ultimate purpose of the course, it says, is to free us from all worry and doubt about how we will live freely and abundantly, and to build an unshakable faith and trust in the goodness of life. With such a faith, we will never be without the things we truly need to live a happy and fulfilling life. You see, this thing that we are, the spirit energy that we are, is in the unseen realm. And there's so much in this physical realm, this three-dimensional place that we live, that draws our attention to it. When in all actuality, we know that everything begins and is created first in the unseen, in the spirit form. And that's what we want to nourish. That's what we want to grow. That's what we want to step up to the plate and receive more of and experience more of it. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to let your spirit thrive, grow? How are you going to know that you have an unshakable faith that I live in the kingdom? Christ Jesus said the kingdom is at hand. Where is that? Right here. Nowhere else. The kingdom is where I am always. Am I going to accept that? And I'm going to step up to that awareness, to that knowing, and saying, gosh, what do I have to worry about? What do I have to be concerned about? We all know the story of the prodigal son. He was living in the kingdom, but what was engrossing him? What was enticing him? Something out there. something different, something better. There's something greener on the other side. And it took them a long time to recognize that I got to come home. Because the Father has been waiting for me. Our Father is waiting for us to open our eyes, to breathe, to know that wherever we are, God is. And so I'm going to give you the basics of what this course, this advanced course in prosperity, is all about, that we will be starting coming up in the next few weeks in June. And I hope and trust that I will have a good amount of spiritual warriors, adventurers, joining me in this course. The first commitment in this course is that we are to tithe 10% of our time for yourself, for you. Number one, the first commitment is tithing 10% of your spiritual growth. And what that equates to is 90 minutes a day. That's 90 minutes of waking hour. You are to do your prayer work, your meditation work, do the course work, do something that feeds you spiritually, personally, individually. Now, I know for many of us, if we have a set time, a schedule of I've got to be here, there, and here, there, and da, where am I going to come up with 90 minutes to feed myself? Well, guess what? If you don't do it, then all you're doing is doing this shallow breathing. We all are familiar with the instructions when we get on the airplane and the oxygen mask drops. What are we to do? If we're taking care of somebody else, we have to put the mask on ourselves first before we can help someone else. That's what it's about. It's about knowing our priorities, that, you know what? I am first. I'm sorry. All of these wonderful other commitments that I have in my life are great. But if I'm not taking care of me, if I'm not feeding me, if I'm not whole and healthy in my way that I'm living my life, what good am I to all the other people, all my other commitments around me? So we have to put ourselves first by knowing that I am worthy of giving this time and this effort for my spiritual growth. The second commitment that they're asking you to do in this course is to tithe 10% of your talent, your gifts. What is it that you have to share with other people? Where do you want to give? And they're suggesting you can do it at church. There's an opportunity. People were here yesterday for 2 hours cleaning and doing all sorts of things. There's all sorts of opportunities right here where you can serve. Or if you have another organization that you have a heartfelt connection to, that you want to give 10% of your time to that, fine. But you do it. It equates to 4 hours of volunteer work a week. So you keep those numbers. You be aware of that. This is a commitment. I'm committing 4 hours a week to these areas that feed me. I know there's other folks here that have lots of different organizations that feed them, that they want to give of their talents and time to. Third commitment. And this is the big frog that Edwin Gaines talks about. Tithing of your income. 10% of your income that comes in, you tithe back when you come to the class, to this class, because this class is where you, for this 7-week period of time, you're getting fed spiritually from it, and you're giving 10% of your gross income to that. Spiritual growth is not for sissies. Making a commitment in that regard for a lot of people stops them from breathing. They go, I can't do that. How do you expect me to do that? Remember that we're asking for 10%. What's left? If you have 100, what's left? 90. You have 90%. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Many people will say, I can't give 10%. I'll be up. Well, I guess I have to watch my words when I'm in public. But, it's an expression. I'll be up shit creek without a paddle. If I do that. I can't do that. Well, I'm saying you've got 90% left. Be prudent with it. That's a wonderful word us insurance people love to use. A prudent person would do. A prudent person takes at least 10% of the 90% and puts it away in some sort of savings investment or whatever so that you do have a paddle later when you get up the creek. That's what it takes. It takes being wise in our decisions. If we have 100%, what are you spending it on? How are you a spender? Well, I'm a spender. I can spend money. Are you spending all your money? Are you spending more than the money you have and putting it on credit? Breathe. Spiritual growth is not for sissies. Take the 10%, make the commitment to tithe it to where you're fed spiritually. Take 10%, put it away in a savings. Take 10%, put it for your personal growth. Make those elements, those designations that you value, that are priority to you. And know that you can do it. Do you recognize that you are an infinite being? This spirit that is living in you wants to do more, be more, express more, play more in this life. Are you up for the game? It takes recognizing that I am in the kingdom right now. I cannot outgive God. In that information that I wrote in the Thought for the Week, I think there's a big truth in the knowledge, and this came from the book, from the course, about the idea of being a giver or a taker in life. And in fact, I was reading somewhere that a very successful businessman who looked at people that they were to hire in their organization evaluated people by the fact of, are you a giver or are you a taker? And he made a point of not hiring the takers. Because whenever we are committed to something and we love it and we give our energy to it, we want to give 110%, don't we? I mean, how many times have you done something and, okay, well, this is all I have to do, but you're so in love with it. You have so much extra divine energy about it that you're going, yeah, I'm going to do the extra. I'm going to go the extra mile. That's what givers do. That's what this land is all about. That's what this experience of living is all about, is the fact that we are in this abundance. And the more we play with it, the more we give of it, the more it creates that energy flow back to us. We're not just giving to give because we want to get back. We want to give because we are an infinite, unlimited being. Recognize this self of who you are is infinite, and it wants to give of its nature that it is. Abundance. Do you know what the definition of humanity is? I've told you this before. Humanity is a dispenser of divine gifts. We are here to dispense, to give our divine gifts to life so that it can grow, evolve, be, play more and more and more. I want you to look this week, truly, at what your commitments are right now. What are you willing to let go of, perhaps? What are you willing to improve upon that you want to increase in the commitment level that you've given, perhaps, in certain areas of your life? What choices have you been making? Are they still supporting you? Or are you ready to change up your game? Are you ready to change up and say, you know what? I am an infinite spiritual being living in the kingdom, and by Jove, I am going to set my intention, I make a commitment to spiritual growth for me. And just see how much God, see how much this spirit that is infinite will step up and go through me and bring to me all of those wonderful things that life has to give. Wedding coordinators just show up out of the blue. That's the way life works, especially when we ask and expect and allow it to move through us. I wanted to finish this morning by asking you to bring back out your program. And let's go ahead and at the very end of it, I want you to read with me the last bold part of the thought for the week. Let's find the thought for the week in the program, that second page. And on the bold lettering at the bottom of the page, let's say that together. And I want you to not just say it, I want you to feel it and make an inner commitment. Does this ring true to me? And go from there. So let's start it. I no longer hesitate, but am committed to growing my spiritual consciousness and awareness that I do indeed live in the kingdom now and always. I trust the divine to flow to and through me. My needs are met easily, and I am happy to know I am a giver and not a taker. My life is full and filled with unlimited abundance, and so it is. And so it is. So there. Namaste.